Thank you, Jorge, and really thank you for this school, the law school, for inviting me, and you'll get used to my accent in a little bit. Just be patient, and I'll try to speak a little slow. And but like I was saying, thank you so much for having me here. I see my name and I see the distinguished stuff, and none of that is not what you're going to get. Two things: I don't do keynote speeches because I don't know how, and I don't do lectures. I'm an organizer. And I'm hoping to organize you into what I think is important for us to organize around. I think that's what organizers do. I think in our movement we have a lot of people who are a lot more eloquent than I am in giving you a prepared speech. But that's not what my talent is. I'm here to conspire with you. Not to plan with you, to conspire with you. Because if you care about working people like I do, the time for meetings, the time for getting together, the time for passing a resolution is over. It's time for us to conspire and start acting on our conspiracy, because millions of workers in this country are counting on us to change the rules. Not to play on the edge, but actually to change the rules. So I'm hoping that we can have a conversation about changing the rules and how do we have a shared prosperity in this country. Now, I know people say the labor movement is a greedy movement. They want their members to have everything and nobody else have anything. The truth is, if this country doesn't prosper, our members can't prosper. Our communities don't prosper. If companies go bankrupt, that means we don't have places for our members to work at companies. What we're saying is we should prosper together. We should move this country forward that way. But I'm here to make the case that's not what's happening. That's not what's happening. It's not one legislation here, one legislation there, but the rules in this country are broken for the vast majority of the people who live in this country and people who get up in the morning and go to work every day. The rules are stacked against them. And what I'm here is to enlist you to help us, change the rules. So I'm in Chicago today than any other place. How many of you, if you are progressive like me, remember 2008? November 2008. Downtown Chicago, right? We had a fantastic night. We had a hopeful night. That's because we elected the president of Hope and Change. That's not the only thing we did. We worked hard to elect 60 senators. We had a house full of so-called progressives in the House. And we picked up a bunch of governor seats all over this country. Can anybody tell me what fundamentally changed in this country because of that work and that excitement that we did? Because I am in the mind that we let a golden opportunity for changing the rules go by without doing anything. Without doing really anything meaningful in changing the rules. It is not only that we elected people. We could get 2008 somehow back. We could get an electoral majority to actually work on hope and change. This is the hardest thing to get, a country in crisis. Because at that time in 2008, we had a country in crisis. If you learned from FDR and everybody else, real leaders lead during crisis and change the rules to respond to the needs of the nation. That's not what we did. Instead, we did more corporate buyouts, corporate bailouts. So in the labor movement, We had one bill ever since I've been in the labor movement for the last 20 plus years that I felt like I was working on. It was called the Employee Free Choice Act. And we all thought this was the time. Finally, workers are going to get their due. We're going to adjust the National Labor Relations Act. We're just going to adjust and level the playing field for workers to sit across the table from their employers and demand what is rightfully theirs. Not less, not more, what is rightfully theirs. Did we get the Employee Free Choice Act to pass? No. When we have 12 million undocumented people who are toiling in kitchens in this country, who are building our highways in this country, who are building homes in this country, we thought hope and change meant we're going to get immigration reform, and those immigrants who are going to fight alongside us and help us change the rules. Brothers and sisters, we let a great opportunity pass because we didn't do those two things. If I was a progressive, more union members means more progressive power. More immigrants empowered means, more immigrants having a pathway to citizenship means, more immigrants helping us change this country in the way we want to change it. We'll let it go. But not too far away from here, 4 years later, a person called Scott Walker got elected. You see, on the other side, that is the only thing they are focused on is changing the rules. Nothing else. Scott Walker never campaigned on changing the rules on workers when he got elected. But the first thing he did is went after the power mechanism, the engine, and where the entire concentration of power for the progressive movement is. That is collective bargaining, that is unionized workers and the labor movement. And he just pointed his gun at our head. So Rich Trumka, before I got elected, I heard him say this. Republicans are throwing a rocking ball at the labor's house, trying to destroy it. Democrats and the progressives think, as long as they're not throwing the rocking ball, standing on the sidelines is fine. I'm telling you, that can't be our politics, and here's why. So it's not coming from me. How many of you know Joseph Stiglitz? He is one of the most renowned economists in this country, a Nobel Prize winner. He was the president of the World Bank, and he served at the Council of the Economic Advisors. Until economic and social rules work for all Americans, they are not working. It's not coming from just a labor nerd. It's coming from one of the best economists in the world that the rules of our economy are not working. And until they work for everybody, they're not working. So these are the rules right now. These are the rules right now. Trickle-down economics, Wall Street deregulation. What does that mean? We got 2008 because Democrats and Republicans came together and took the referees off the field. That's what they did. And they let corporate America to play whatever kind of a game they want to play without referees being in the field. That's what deregulation got us. Unfair trade deals. I don't have to tell you, you are from the Midwest, from the Rust Belt. You know what NAFTA did to this country. And if we allow it, what TPP would do to this country even more. When we talk about trade deals, people think, well, that's about manufacturing workers. No, it's about economic basis of small towns in this country. When you don't have your manufacturing base, your city does not have the tax base to actually support the firefighters that it needs. You see decaying schools because you don't have people who actually can sustain in that economy those kind of schools. We're not against trade. We want to have the right kind of trade. Trade that lifts everybody up instead of dropping everybody down. Not only here in the United States, but with every country that we do trade with. So I usually put it this way. Trade is a choice. Outside there are elevators. If you walk into the elevator, you get two choices. Either you press the button down or you press the button up. Our government, under Democratic administrations or Republican administrations, every trade deal, when it comes to the environment, when it comes to workers, they always press the button down. And we think there is a better alternative. We can't engage in trade that lifts everybody up. So, since 1992, actually, from having 270,000 prisoners, our country now houses 2.5 million people in jail. Mostly people of color. Mostly people who are picked up because they had a joint in their pocket. A land of the free and the home of the brave cannot be a home of the largest prison population in the world. We have twice as many prisoners as China and Russia combined. That's not a democracy. Our democracy is broken when that's happening. Our broken immigration system keeps people in the shadows. And those of you who are not immigrants like me, it's not just about immigrants who are toiling. As long as immigrant workers are being cheated, their wages stolen, they don't have a voice at the workplace, they are working in the shadows, don't ever think about raising your own wages because that ain't gonna happen. That's why it has to be every worker's fight to find a pathway for citizenship and a pathway for immigrant workers to come out of the shadows and fight the good fight with us. Then, state to state, state by state, you get these things called voter suppression. Why would they do voter suppression? Is it because of voter fraud? We know. You guys are lawyers or law school. You can't do the research. We don't have a problem in this country of actually more people voting and cheating and voting. I wish people were just even voting once. We just don't have that problem. Right? But it is a calculated effort in order to keep the current rules and to not allow us to change the rules. They have to make their own rules. And they come up with the voter ID laws, the voter suppression laws in every corner of the country every time they get power. So the system is rigged. I don't have to tell you that. You know, how do you explain this? The Walmart Harris, the Walton Harris, world equals 42% of the world, of the bottom 42% of the population of the United States. Let me put that in numbers for you. 6 people in this country are worse. 137 million people in this country. It's rigged. It's rigged. No wonder they are allowed to suppress the voices of their workers at every Walmart store in this country, or Walmart truck drivers, or the supply chain. Because the system is rigged. And here it is. Over a third of all US income grows from 1979 to 2007, went to the top 1%. I just want that to sink in. We have to change the rules so that we can get shared prosperity. This is not a chart of shared prosperity. So, why I am in the labor movement, why I chose this field, is there isn't any kind of inequalizer in this country to actually get us to shared prosperity. As long as we don't give workers to be at the table with their employers and negotiate what is rightfully theirs, we can't do it. And it's not just a made-up stuff. The chart shows you the share of income for the top 1% is in red, and union membership. Union membership declines. When union membership declines, you see income gaps just going. No wonder the Scott Walkers of the world always point their guns at the labor movement. It's not because they specifically hate unions. It is unions are on their way of actually from this map, this chart actually even as accelerating itself and have no rules whatsoever in what they want to do. But we all know the economy is not like the weather. This is Chicago. Sometimes the thunder comes outside, you can't control it. Snow, you can't control it. But what happens with our economy? It's man-made. It's man-made. The rules are made by men and women that we elect into office. So you have an election coming up. What is our agenda? With what agenda do we actually elect people to office? Do we let politics lead our agenda? Or do we demand that finally our agenda lead our politics? And if that's going to be the case, our agenda has to be shared prosperity. Our agenda has to be about changing the rules. And it's not new for working people because we have done it before. So this is the election result of 2012. Is that right? Is there something wrong with that map? This is the election result of 2012. If only white people were allowed to vote in this country, Mitt Romney would have run away with 441 electoral votes. But that's not what happened. Barack Obama won with 332 electoral votes. This is the real agenda behind voter ID and voter suppression. They know if they suppress enough people out of the polling place, they can control the country. So, again, we got to change the rules. That's what they do on their side. They change the rules to determine who gets to vote, who doesn't get to vote. We can't always be playing nice. And when we get power, we have to be in a position of changing the rules. That's why I opened up with 2008, because that was the opportunity that we had. We just let it go. So let's look at some historical perspective of actually how workers and regular people used to do to change the rules and build the great middle class in this country. So Flint is in the news lately. Flint is in the news for not things that you and I like to see. But Flint, 79 years ago, was a place where working people changed the rules. They occupied their factory floors. They defied all the powers and created this thing called collective bargaining and the birth of the middle class in this country. That is when we use to change the rules of the workplace. From that, when the other side changed the rules, we got to this. How does this happen? How does, in a first-class country in the world, that people are getting poisoned with the water that comes out of their pipe? Is that an accident? No. I would like to make the case people purposefully changed the rules, and those rules delivered poisoned water, not collective bargaining or shared prosperity. How did that happen? We talked about the broken trade rules. Entirely, places like Flint got devastated when we passed NAFTA. Talk about rules. The Republican governor gets elected. One of the first things he did, working with the legislature in Michigan, is takes away local control and people in their cities from actually making a decision, and he appointed his appointees, he appointed city managers to run their cities. Those are direct changes on the rule. And their entire goal became, how do we make profits by changing the water source from where they drink? Not are we going to poison people. They took the referees off the field, and they created the crisis that Flint is in. 60s, civil rights movement. You know, if everybody knows the eloquence of Dr. King, everybody knows Dr. King got assassinated. Dr. King got assassinated in Memphis trying to change the rules for sanitation workers. These were the people. We need to get that spirit back of changing the rules. And I don't know about you. I feel like we're in a movement of a golden opportunity. We have a generation I have never been part of or seen. A generation of young people saying enough is enough. It's not only Black Lives Matter. I don't know how many of you know about the Not One More movement. It's entirely fueled by young undocumented people who are risking it all and saying not one more deportation and going and getting arrested in front of the White House. With your lawyer skills, with the labor movement's organizing skills, can we work with these young people to deliver us a rule change in this country so that we can prosper together again as we move forward? So, our country is at the crossroads. Either we can't have this guy, or we can change the debate. I might offend some people when I say this. Donald Trump goes around and talks about the Nabisco plant in Chicago. Donald Trump talks about trade. Donald Trump sounds like he's talking about working people. But you know what? Cleaning houses starts at your home. His workers in Las Vegas today are asking him, after overwhelmingly voting to be in a union, instead of filing a lawsuit to block him, he should sign a contract with them, and that charity starts at home. He should do that. The dangerous Donald Trump is not talking about body parts or steaks or the wine or anything else he's doing. The dangerous part of Donald Trump is he thinks, he has said it, wages are way too high in this country. That's what Donald Trump thinks. Donald Trump thinks he's 100% in agreement with the right to work movement, and he wants the country to become a right to work country. Donald Trump is not an agent to change the rules on the right way. It doesn't matter how much he says he's an outsider. But there is a reason why my members are listening to Donald Trump. That's because nobody has talked to them about their suffering. It doesn't matter from the Republican or the Democratic side. And all of a sudden there is this big mouse guy and they are glued to it. But there's a huge danger attached to a demagogue like Donald Trump. There is a national security issue for all of us when Donald Trump says Muslims are not welcome into this country. You see, I'm an immigrant. I chose to come to this country. I'm grateful for this country. But I chose my citizenship to this country because this country offered things. This country allowed me, I have no rights, but this country allowed me to come and speak in front of you today. This happens only in America. You know, I risked my life walking through a desert for 93 days to get to the Sudan to come here as a political refugee. That's not the Donald Trump America, is not the America I risk my life to come to. And the Donald Trump America should scare all of you. Because he's coming for me today. I don't know when he's going to come for you tomorrow. It's just not Donald Trump. It's just not Donald Trump. It's a bunch of them. He's vocalizing it, but it's just a bunch of them. So let me close with this. I have this photo in my office with actually a writing on it which says, I love my job. That's Irma. I love Irma's smile on this photo. I first met Irma in 2010 in Orange County, California. You see, the Teamsters in Orange County always bragged that they have the highest density of sanitation workers in Orange County than any part of the country. Anybody from Teamsters here? You know Ron Herrera, right? Ron always used to tell me that. So Ron and I took a ride to Anaheim Disposal one day. And I saw hundreds of people leaving the plant and hundreds of them coming in. Most of them don't look like people you work with every day. I immediately noticed they were all immigrants. And I asked Ron, are they your members? Ron said, no. I said, how could you have 97% unionization rate if these people are not your members? Then Ron told me a horror story. The Teamsters tried to organize a sanitation plant in 1998, 99. After they submitted the cards for union election, the company called ICE, and everyone who worked there was picked up and deported. That left a sad, bad taste in the union. They didn't want to bother those workers anymore. Then when I went and saw the new shift starting to work, here's what they do. In the Southern California heat, outside, there is a belt which is continuously going, and they line up on the side of the belt. Then the trash truck come in, not the blue bins where you put your recycling. This is where you put your general trash into, where roadkill goes to, where syringes go to, whatever else, diapers and whatever else you put to. And the truck dumps it on the belt. Then with their hand for 8 hours, they are looking for recyclable items all day long. I couldn't sleep because I'm saying if the labor movement is not going to respond to these people and find a home for these people, what are we for? So what we did was we activated a network of churches who have been working with in Orange County. And we brought in community leaders from Orange County. And we brought Irma and her friends to come and do testimonial for them. And they told them what they go through on a daily basis at work. Then the church leader said, what do you want us to do? So the only thing I asked them was, I want you to go to talk to management and just ask them one simple question. Why are you calling ICE when they are trying to stand up at their workplace? Of course, the company denied it. They never do that. We gave them a little piece of letter which says they will never do that if their workers try to organize. As a labor leader, I couldn't do that. What I'm telling you is the power of working as a movement with the community and what we can do. And they came back with a piece of paper saying they're never going to call ICE. I called Ron, and Teamster International organizers came and met with us and said, let's go. So here's what I want to tell you. 7 months from that visit, these people overwhelmingly voted to join the Teamsters, and they just didn't become members of the Teamsters from just making a minimum wage. They make a living wage. They get 2-week paid vacation. They have family medical care. Above all, they have a voice at work. And the first thing they did at the contract negotiation was, I asked them, what do you want to do? They said, we want that board to go. I was asking them, what board? They said, the bathroom board. You know what the bathroom board was before they had the union? When you come in, you line up and you schedule yourself what time you're going to go to the bathroom, and you have to go to the bathroom only at that time. Now they have at their workplace a dignity and a dignified workplace. When we change the rules, that's what the power we have to do. I know these are small anecdotes in a big pot of hundreds of millions of people who go to work every day. But with your help, I think we can scale this up. With your help, I think we can change lives. With your help, actually, we can build the America we want, not the America they want. It's up to us. We are on the fork on the road. Either we take the direction of prosperity, or we go into the direction of unshared prosperity. This country becomes a birthplace of billionaires every week. At the same time, creating hundreds of thousands of people going into poverty every day. When that happens, we just don't lose our wages. We lose our democracy. But working together, I think we're on the verge of finding the way to actually changing the rules. I hope you have some questions for me. Thank you so much for being here and listening to me.
Tefere can sort of point at people, and that should work.
And I'll look up too. Yes?
You briefly mentioned Las Vegas in the talk.
You are from Las Vegas?
I am from Las Vegas.
Okay.
Yes. And if I'm correct, I don't think that the union organization is very strong in Las Vegas. My family's in the casino industry, and I never want to talk about unions. Do you think that some things could be changed in Las Vegas? Because I think that
That's strange, because I think Las Vegas has the highest union density, if I'm not for a city, if I'm not wrong. Yeah, it's actually, it's a right to work state. That's where one place actually in the country, they have defied the rules. And actually, people have organized, including Trump Plaza. The workers voted to be in a union, and Donald Trump has filed, I think, 17 different lawsuits to block him from going and negotiating a contract. I don't know about you, but it scares me. Someone is running for president of the United States who is afraid of actually sitting across the table from people who make beds for a living, cooks in the kitchen, and he can't even negotiate with these people. But you know, the fact that you don't hear about the union in Las Vegas, that's a narrative problem that we have. You should be hearing more about the unions in Las Vegas, but that's one of the powerhouse places that we have. Yes, sir.
Thank you so much for coming. That was brilliant. Tomorrow, across the highway, there's something called Trump Anger Palooza, UIC. And I can pretty much guarantee you that a percentage of the people who are going to be attending that are going to be union members. How do we get our members to vote in their enlightened self-interest? Because my experience has been representing a lot of law enforcement people and some white-collar people that are, I thought, were pretty intelligent, that they will vote for a candidate like Trump based on their position on abortion or guns or something like that, and we can't get these folks to vote in their enlightened self-interest. You have any tips?
Well,
Help me with that?
well, I'll tell you, Donald Trump is not actually asking him to vote for him because of guns or abortion. Donald Trump is tapping into their fear, tapping into not only their fear, but their reality. Their reality, that is, he's telling him the rules of this country that we create, our trade laws, is killing you. And he's damn right. Right? When he says companies like Nabisco are being selfish, to leave. But what you ask them is, what is his alternative? What is his alternative? They don't hear the fact that he publicly told a TV station, wages are too high in this country. He told them right to work is all right. Right to work is the thing we should be doing. They don't know about the story of him and what he's doing to the most vulnerable workers in Las Vegas at his hotel. I think we can get to him if we talk to him from that perspective. But the thing is, you know, if he becomes the only candidate, the only politician in this country tapping into that fear, tapping into their anxiety and really trying, it's going to be very difficult for us to talk to them. We have to give them solutions, and we have to give them alternatives, and we have to tell them the truth about actually who Donald Trump is. We can't cover up what he's uncovering because it needs to be uncovered. Because I'll tell you the fact, if TPP becomes a law in this country, we have lost, between 2000 and today, we have lost 60,000 manufacturing plants in this country have shut down. With TPP, that would double. Then it becomes more difficult for us what to tell to our members. When we tell them, be active with politics, get out and vote, get out and volunteer, do this and do that, and they don't see the rules change after that happens. That's what we have to do. I think I have a lot more faith in America than actually finally putting Donald Trump into the White House. I think it is a long stretch there. But I don't want to risk that. Just the possibility of 25% of a chance Donald Trump could be in the White House scares the hell out of me. It scares the hell out of me. Yes, sir. Can you tell me who you are first, so when you ask me a question?
My name is Bernier. I'm an officer with Local 1 Unite here.
Yes, sir.
That strong union in
Las Vegas. Yeah.
A powerful union, I might add. I'm 75 years old. I've been in the labor movement for 45 years as an active person trying to make a better life for the people that I represent. I'm an educated person. By luck, by the United States government putting me through college because I was a veteran. I will tell you, I hear a lot of talk, but I don't see any action in the place that ultimately I think it has to take place. And that is right in here, in the mind. I can remember one class in all of the education that I have up to a master's degree at the University of Illinois in a personnel class where they had one paragraph in a personnel course about unions. That's the only thing I ever heard all the time I was there. It was about the Haymarket riot and how they killed the police. What is wrong with us when we realize that the people that are going into these jobs are our children, and our children's children, and our children's children's children, and yet we never educate them for 1 minute about what the labor union really is about and why they need collective bargaining. We have synonyms all over the place. Corporation, what is that but a union of stockholders? A gang, what is that but a union of people off the street? What is a police force but a union of citizens that have said we need someone to control our safety? There are unions everywhere, gangs, clubs. There's all kinds of words, but we never use the word labor union to educate our children. And that, in my opinion, is a big mistake because it's a little late once they get into the job and they have to go.
I could be wrong with my answer, but I think if we get a chapter in a book, that's a fix. But if you change the rules of actually who writes those books, that's actually a change. I think we need to focus on who actually sets the curriculum. We all work to elect school board members, right? I wonder what you ask school board members when they come to ask you for an endorsement, what the questions actually you ask them about what kind of curriculum is going to be. We got to change actually the rules, not actually someone saying we're going to have a paragraph in there. I don't want a paragraph. This is the problem in my eyes in our movement. We used to fight for the piece of the pie. Now we're fighting for crumbs. And what happens when you throw crumbs, breadcrumbs for birds? They come after that crumb and they start fighting each other to get to that crumb. In my mind, we have to focus in how we get the piece of the pie. And in order for that to happen, the rules that govern our economy, not only for unions, for everything from our democracy to our economy has to change. It doesn't matter what president you elect, everything happened in this country, which is 30 plus years. The economic advisor inside the White House has come from 2 companies. The people who design our economy, Democrat or Republican, Goldman Sachs or Citibank. Unless you break that, it doesn't matter who becomes Secretary of Labor, you're not changing the rules. Because we are focused on implementers of the rules instead of actually who are people who are actually writing the rules who are supposed to be changing the rules. So our focus has to change in order to have actually an expanding democracy, an expanding union membership, and shared prosperity in this country.
Back here.
Yes. And now look up, okay? Yes.
Thank you for your really wonderful lecture. I am challenged to think when people vote, well, mostly people don't vote. So, I think, how do we get people to think about voting in terms of, like you're saying, changing the rules? I think the motivation for most people is to make a statement or that they approve or, feel comfortable with this person or that, but they're not voting about the rules. So how do we make people think about voting, in a different way so that they engage? And even it's a challenge, as you're saying. They say, well, if the Secretary of the Treasury, it's always the same 2 Wall Street companies that are represented. So they're going to say, well, all politicians are crooked, so we shouldn't vote. So it's hard to talk to people and not discourage them, but encourage them to vote and still point out these problems.
Yeah, I don't want this to come across as daunting. I think as activist politics has to be a year-round politics. I don't think our problem is changing politicians. Our problem is changing their electorate. And in order to change their electorate, it's got to take year-round politics. We got to have, as activists, we got to be devoted to staying in people's living rooms, in their communities, and in front of their house, and having conversations about actually what we want to change. Because you're right, people don't think the rules are going to change. It doesn't matter if they vote or not. But first, we need to come up what are the rule changes that we want on our side and get people excited. These rule changes are going to improve your life and change your life. Then you'll see people getting engaged. But if we're going to do the same things that we do, that is September, October politics, right? We already are settled, the rules are set, the agenda is set, and you tell people, if you don't go vote, the other side is worse than the one I'm asking you to vote for, and this is what you're going to vote for, you're going to start seeing people dropping off and dropping off and dropping off because politics doesn't mean anything in their life. And when I say change the rules, I mean everything. I mean Citizens United. I mean like money, how we take money out of politics. I have always wondered, I could go open a bank account with my social security card, but I can't get a ballot to vote with my social security card. Who is it helping for me to register and fill out an additional form to say I'm a voter? Who's that rule helping? Can we be bold enough to say, if you were born in this country and you got a social security card when you got out of the hospital, you were good enough, you should vote? Why is that too big for us to imagine about. How do we take obstacles away from people to actually vote? If you go to a university in North Carolina, and you have been in North Carolina for 5 years going to school, North Carolina lawmakers just changed the rules and said you can't vote in North Carolina anymore. And that's a calculated effort. They're doing it for a reason. They're doing it so they can have the haves and the have-nots. They can have their greed become more greed and more greed and more greed. And if we want shared prosperity, we have to change the rules, and we have to design the rules, and we have to be inside the room when the rules are being written. That's, I think, when you do that, you see people getting excited. See, you cannot disagree with Donald Trump all you want, but you said he's going to have a rally today, or tomorrow. He's going to have thousands of people show up, right? You can't say whatever you want about Bernie Sanders. Thousands of people show up because they're touching on a nerve that the political class is not doing. And how we align ourselves, that's up to us. But what I would tell, especially for labor leaders who are in here, if you're not doing your own politics, you're not doing politics. You're just volunteering for somebody else's politics. You're not doing your own politics. Yes? One more? I think you're going to be the last one. Go ahead. Yes. I wish we do. Everything they had in Germany. We have two different systems. We're a republic, they're a democracy. And even their unions function that way than ours do. So we're trying to do that. You know, one of the things I'm doing right now, I'm focused on, is trying to organize in the South. Because those of you who are in Chicago thinking, what does that anything have to do with me? It has everything to do with you. Because they say what happens in Vegas, what do they say? Stays in Vegas. What happens in the South sooner or later comes and gets everybody. Right? So I'm spending a lot of time. A lot of time in the South. So we're working with UAW with minority unionism. That's what we're trying to do. We were trying to do. UAW was trying to do at Chattanooga with VW, and you saw the entire political class. A U.S. senator practically broke the law, broke the oath of the Senate by actually campaigning against collective bargaining. The oath of the Senate says the U.S. government's goal is to expand collective bargaining. And the senator just said, screw it. Because that could have been a game changer if they actually had done that in Chattanooga. So we're trying to do that. So we didn't give up in Chattanooga when that happened. What the UAW did was created Local 42, I believe, which is a minority local, unheard of in this country, which is growing on daily basis. But here's the difference between us and Germany. In Germany, you have multiple parties. If you get 10% of the vote, you get 10% of the representation in parliament. Here, it's winner take all. 50.1% gets 100% of what they need. 49.9999999% gets zero. That's how Republic works. I'm not criticizing our system, but we have a system difference that does not allow us, doesn't give us the room to do what we need to do in Germany. If you want to change that rule though, fight for a rule change. Not incremental change, but fight for a rule change. So I see our time is up, so thank you so much. I had fun, I don't know about you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for coming, and thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks.